Hi people, it's me, Anja. My pronouns all she and her, and welcome back to my channel for a new recent reads video because I wanted to upload this video in between the last video and the next video that you'll watch, assuming that you watch my videos in chronological order. But originally, I was going to upload the last video and the next video back to back because I filmed them together on the same day a few days ago. So anyway, here we are. Sometimes I'm afraid that my subscribers don't like my videos if they're too similar to the one that I just posted, if that makes any sense. So I'm putting a recent reads video in between for a little bit of a refresher, palette cleanser type of thing. Anyway, here we are. The first book on this list is called Hattie Begins Again. This book is a middle-grade historical fiction following a young black main character trying to fit in at a new school in 1938. I thought this book was so good and it was so fantastic. First of all, as we all know, historical fiction is one of my favorite genres. I love reading books about main characters who are trying to fit into new situations and environments, because that's something that anyone from any time period can relate to. And I loved the time period and the setting and the friendships and the characters and the plot and the writing and everything. I think this book is so good and it's so underrated. So anyway, with that said, I rated this book 4 to 5 stars and I would definitely highly recommend it. The next book on this list is called DJ Rosenblum Becomes the G.O.A.T. And if I've mispronounced her last name, please let me know. This story is a middle-grade contemporary following a young Jewish main character in the wake of her cousin's death, and she's trying to solve the mystery behind it. And I thought this book was so good and so fantastic. First of all, I loved the Jewish representation. I loved learning about her faith and her relationship to Jewish law and everything. I thought that everything was so well done and so good. Every single conversation that she had with her rabbi was done so well and it was so educational. I just loved those parts. Second of all, I loved the characters. I loved her friendships. I loved her relationship with her parents and with her aunt and uncle and everything. This book was so good. I loved the depiction of grief and loss and finding new friends and everything. And also, I think the main character might be sapphic. I'm not quite sure on that, actually. But anyway, I thought this book was so good and it was so well done. So with that said, I rated this book 4 to 5 stars and I would definitely highly recommend it. The next book on this list is called I Don't Wish You Well. This book was on my January TBR and I was really excited for it because this book is a YA thriller following a black queer main character who's investigating a murder spree from 5 years ago. And typically I really enjoy small town mysteries, investigating a cold case, stuff like that. Unfortunately, I didn't like this book as much as I was really expecting because the villain reveal, in my opinion, undermines what I thought was the entire message of the book, because I thought the entire message of the book, or one of them anyway, was that we shouldn't be villainizing queer people because of what the original mystery was solved, if that makes any sense, in terms of the context of the book and how it relates to the main character's journey of accepting his own sexuality and how that relates to the mystery itself. I don't know if that makes any sense at all without context of the book. I feel like I just spoiled it, actually. But I don't really care because I didn't really like this book. And I rated it 3 stars, but I did appreciate the plot and the characters and everything. But I don't know if I want to read another book by this author in the future, frankly. So yeah, anyway, with that said, I rated this book 3 stars and I didn't like it. The next book on this list is called Better the Devil. This story is a YA thriller following a queer homeless teenager who assumes the identity of someone who went missing a decade ago. I didn't like this book because the entire premise and the execution just seemed so far-fetched. Every time I read a book with a unique premise like this, I have to trust the process, the execution of the story, and sometimes the execution is awesome. But this book just felt very underdeveloped in terms of the mystery itself, which is what this story is supposed to be driven by. Since it's a thriller, like, it's supposed to be plot driven and mystery driven, but like the main characters didn't do enough sleuthing for the ending to not seem like it came out of nowhere. You know what I mean? Like, the best mysteries have a climax and an ending and a villain reveal that you can see coming if you reread it, and you can see all the hints and stuff. But this book didn't have that because, like, they didn't do enough sleuthing, so the ending came out of nowhere and felt like it was a shock factor instead of like a well-articulated mystery. Does that make any sense? Anyway, I rated this book 3 stars because I was frankly very disappointed by it. So yeah, there's that. The last book on this list is called Kindred Dragons. This story is a middle-grade fantasy graphic novel that follows a young main character who befriends an old, mysterious dragon that doesn't have a kindred, which is considered weird because she lives in a world where fairies deliver eggs to the lucky few who are selected as kindreds, and kindreds basically get to raise the dragon egg that they are gifted. So it's odd that this old dragon doesn't have a kindred. And I thought this book was so good and so well done, and I'm so excited for the sequel, which I'm assuming is the book listed under the author's name as Kindred Serpents, but I'm not quite sure. Anyway, this book was pitched as Anne of Green Gables meets How to Train Your Dragon, which I think is a perfect comp because this book was so wholesome and so sweet. I loved the illustrations and the characters and the plot and the world building and the setting and the friendships and the family dynamics and everything. I thought this book was so cute and so well done, and I would definitely recommend it for fans of like the Tea Dragon Society trilogy and everything. So anyway, with that said, I rated this book 4 to 5 stars, and I would definitely highly recommend it. So in conclusion, I've read 15 books this month, and today is the 22nd, I think. And, you know, that's really accurate for me right now because I didn't read anything, or rather, I didn't complete anything from the 2nd of January to the 9th. So honestly, those numbers really make sense for me. Anyway, in conclusion, if you enjoy this video, please don't hesitate to give it a big thumbs up. Comment down below the unicorn emoji if you made it all the way to the end of the video. Thanks for watching, subscribe to my channel if you're new, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!